Thank you, Sarah. So now we move on to a Q&A session, guys, and I have a few questions myself, but if you want to, maybe we have roving mics for going around the room. So, Denny, you want to maybe just raise your hand? We have about 15 minutes. Yeah, about 15 minutes for questions, just for this panel, and then we're going to move on to the second half.
Sarah, this is a question about the Open BIM certification. What's the level of uptake and support that you have in Germany for that?
Effort?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Is it on? Yeah. Efforts were in the beginning quite high because we had to go several loops. But right now the market is really needing a certificate. So we put a lot of effort and a short time into it. Still, I don't think it's so easy to compare the effort we had with effort maybe other countries who are following are going to have, because we prepared the international LLF with all the 7 other countries. We are having the content, the learning outcome framework. We developed the testing questions, which are worldwide the same. We developed the requirements on course providers, and we are right now developing a body of knowledge, and it's not a German body of knowledge, it's a body of knowledge which refers to ISO standards such as 19650. So this is really a worldwide thing, and if countries are coming up, or chapters coming up and say, yeah, this is a good choice to go with this certification, they are getting every support they need. There's a financial plan, there is a marketing plan, there are all documents needed, and just about the maybe national module 6, if you think we are having so many national requirements, we want to create also a national module 6.
And VDI, who are they?
Excuse me?
The VDI, who are they?
It's Association of German Engineers.
Right,
It's,
so if we can
standardizer.
translate that in an Irish context, in the delivery of this roadmap and the commitment to Open BIM, it would be necessary for the implementation team to persuade organisations like the RAI, Engineers Ireland, ACI, SCSI, to adopt and the BO, the book of knowledge that the Building International have developed. That's the challenge for us, isn't it?
It's great to have, but it's not needed. It was a discussion we had with our Association of German Engineers, and they said, okay, we believe this is the right solution, and the market is accepting that certification much more when we are in it as well. And this is why Building Smart and our VDI came together.
Surya again. Really interested in this program. I think what's interesting is that the Building Smart brand is synonymous with Open BIM. We all understand that now, and I think an Open BIM certification would be ideal, really. You mentioned yourself, though, that one of the issues at the moment is that there are so many certification programs on the go just now. But as an industry, we are now realizing that's a good way to differentiate. You know, if you can have your employees, your skilled people, somehow certified in a BIM way, then you know that can be a differentiator. But I'm just wondering if I think it would be perfect if this certification could take over from this raft of all these other organisations that we have available. But there's just so many at the moment, and you know, I think the quicker you can get this available to the masses, the better. Absolutely, I think it sounds really good, really good. But how quickly are we talking about, though? You said the UK are obviously. You know, working with you, or it's getting looked to be rolled out in the UK. What's the timeline beyond Germany for other countries?
Norway is starting around the same time as we do. Spain wants to follow this year. Canada would like to follow this year. Italy got a new chapter. Still, they're very into that certification topic. Especially, as you said, there are many certificates, and I don't say the other certificates are not good, but it's nice to have a common one. It's about the preparation, and it's about how important you consider certification in your roadmap.
Just by way of information, last night, Sarah and I met with Jeremy Larkin, CEO of NSLI, and Dave Bennett, head official for Arcadis. He's the UKI representative who's looking after the certification. There's lots of work going on in the background to make sure that Ireland are in a position to roll the certificate out in 2019 through the UKI Smart Track.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
It's absolutely UKI. No Ireland. I don't think we need to.
Basically, I just said it's a UK noise. Some group of nations obviously have their own separate ones, so it's just we are put in with UK and it's a UK and Ireland one. Sometimes, just personally for myself, even my own organisation, sometimes it's UK and I, but it's really heavily focused UK. So sometimes having Ireland and having been part of it and absolutely contributing to it is very important. That's just a comment from myself.
Absolutely recognise. Yeah, sorry. Now, well, now. So yeah, absolutely recognise that, and I want to change that. So we'll be UK and I, not just UK with a very small I. Yeah.
I didn't think we were going to get on to Brexit matters, but yeah. Just one thing briefly, maybe I'll ask a question of Dominic here beside me is, I suppose you started off talking about like the high level context in terms of where we are, but what support or driver do you think is needed now at a high level, maybe from industry, or at a high level in the industry? What do you think to take us to the next step?
I suppose we're all pretty familiar now at this stage with the announcement of the CSG, the Construction Sector Group, which was announced under the NDP. Now a lot of us have a focus on that, and I suppose for our particular focus here today, obviously, is around BIM. And the main reason around the CSG and the announcement of it is really, I suppose, the delivery of the 116 billion 10-year plan and the roadblocks that are potentially going to prevent the rollout of that plan. And for that plan to be delivered in the most productive and efficient way. And BIM obviously has a huge role to play in that. So very early in the play, the BIM should get onto the CSG agenda. Now, at the moment, they're constructing the formation of that particular group, and it all depends really how large a group it's going to be, or how it's going to be constructed. And if it's a very numerous membership, it could be very unwieldy. If it's a small focus group with subcommittees, I think it could be far more efficient. So therefore, yeah, I think it should be one of the things that should get onto the CSG agenda very quickly. We in CIF have had various discussions with government in relation to productivity and innovation within the industry. I think we all recognise we're pretty challenged in that area. And in fairness to the government, they have also recognised that we are challenged. However, if you look at the bottom line performance of our construction companies, you'll see that they're all pretty much challenged. And there was a report in the paper in the Sunday Independent only last Sunday, and if you read it, you would have seen that like the average bottom line performance of our large construction companies is 1 to 1.5%. So therefore, obviously, R&D and innovation is going to be very challenged in relation to investment into those areas. So what we are looking for from CIF, we're looking for a food equivalent of Teagasc and or BIA in construction. And for those particular state agencies then to carry out the innovation in parallel to the industry. And once the innovation has matured, then they sell it back into industry. And I think that's an area well worth kind of exploring.
Yeah, hi Dan. I'd like to congratulate Georgina on a great presentation, and a question for her. How to unlock that early design, early involvement to get the real value out of BIM by reducing the overall total cost of construction. What, in your opinion, actually needs to be done differently in the way procurement is done? We're talking about government. Interestingly, government is the main target for most of disputes that go to court. And they have mad procurement rules where they'll keep going back to the same people who brought them to court, for example. How can that be changed, or is that part of it?
Yeah, definitely part of it. The way that our contracts, so the traditional form of contract, doesn't allow for BIM or for digital construction. Now, I know that the CIF are working on some realignment of contracts. So the contracts themselves don't lend themselves to early engagement from us, the people who have the technical knowledge. So traditionally, the building is design intent, so is developed to a stage to allow the client to go to procurement to a main contractor. And that's as far as it's taken. It's put out to the main contractor. And by the time it's awarded to the main contractor, now the clock is ticking. You're on a program and you're on a schedule. And by the time we get it, we're so far down the line in the construction program, as you see from the image, that we really can't give the value at that stage, because now we're on site and it's all very reactive. Now, in terms of digital construction within our business, we can really gain in terms of rapid iteration with 3D design. And there's lots of really fantastic gains for 3D and for digital and for BIM within our organisation. And that's what we're going for, first of all, because contracts are not ready, Ireland is not ready for BIM. And so we have a lot of work to do on how procurement is done, and public procurement, not only private procurement. But I won't pretend to know the ins and outs as to how we're going to achieve it, but there's a lot of work required.
I can just add that myself and Dominic were part of a delegation. We met the OGP recently, and one of the things that's enshrined in the medium-term strategy, which is the next raft of changes in public procurement, is the concept of early contractor involvement. And I know that we got indications from the other side that they are going to trial now early contractor involvement because of the fact that really they're looking at the fragmentation of the industry and where design belongs, where design development actually sits right down through the supply chain. So they're looking at early contractor involvement type contracts, and I would imagine that'll probably extend down into different elements of the specialist tier 2s as well.
It takes you then to the question of design responsibility. And the beauty of a BIM and an open, transparent environment is that it's very clear who takes design responsibility. So you take responsibility for the element of design, which is what we do anyway. We take responsibility for the element of design that we do, which is the technical detailing. So we already take responsibility for that. And sometimes it's disproportional responsibility. It's not reflective of our contract arrangements, if you know what I mean. So the process will open up all of that, and design responsibility shouldn't be a concern, because now you're in an open, transparent, visual system that everybody knows who took responsibility for what element of design. And that's part of the difficulty, I believe, in contracts. Who's taking responsibility here?
Yeah, I'd agree with you to some extent about that. The thing that you see actually happening out in the industry is, let's just bang it all into a big Revit model, whether it works in that or not, and the actual design responsibility is ultimately lost as to who owns what part of it, because many people can actually, in those situations, can tamper with other components or will move other components, and this gets lost. Whereas where people should be using is proper BIM, IFC4 views, things like that, to be very clear about it, and to go with that type of integration, to have a proper IFC approach to it, much more like akin to what the Nordics already do. That will deliver it, will provide that. and will provide the certainty of it. Otherwise, you do end up with uncertainty and problems. Anyway.
Okay, guys, any more questions, or we're going to wrap up this part of the last one here? Yeah.
Very interesting and well-delivered presentation. And my question just is, if as a specialist contractor you're in that supply chain, you're both supplier at one stage, but on the other side you're a consumer of from the downstream side. Is there any lessons learned? Have you brought people on from that side, these smaller players? Have you been able to drive them? Like you can describe benefits to them that are understandable, but if they don't have the wherewithal to come with you, they may be stuck there. So I wonder, have you been able to bring people on, or?
And that is the difficulty, bringing people along. And that's where we're at the stage of, you're going to have to take responsibility and ownership for this. You're going to have to get upskilled, and you're going to have to get knowledge. Otherwise, the decision is no longer going to be yours. So you either take the digital decision and transition with us and with everybody, or you're no longer on the bus. And that's the reality. That's not even a threat anymore. That's facts. That's what's going to happen. And it is difficult. And it's nobody's fault, only your own. If you know, so it's very much about behaviours. We need to make sure that people accept that this is their responsibility. Now, in terms of our supply chain, in terms of our specialist contractors down the line, we do have a lot of work to do, and it's cost prohibitive for those guys right now. And so we have a lot of work to get those guys upskilled. In terms of our supply chain for suppliers, we also have a significant amount of work. There's a world of opportunity in terms of being able to collaborate with their suppliers, and so that we can take orders from our model and send it direct to their manufacturing system. So there's no no requirement for them to manipulate any of the orders that we would send in. So and again, for our suppliers to give us data, to give us the objects that we install in a format that is suitable to BIM. So there's a world of opportunity to be explored from that side of things. And we're ready and willing and more than able. But it's really to get people engaged. And to some of our suppliers, we would have very significant suppliers and significant players in the market. It's a big task. It's a pretty mammoth task because they provide a hell of a lot of products. And so for them, it's a big task. But we're slowly but surely, we are getting there.
Okay, guys, last question. Go ahead.
Antonio, mine is a question and observation, if I can. Both nice presentation. I completely agree with you, Georgina, when it comes to the fact that BIM level 2 is a process, and therefore, before even we start to think about Revit or ArchiCAD or the software that we decide to use to apply, is definitely is not for everyone. As you said, people have to take responsibility for their task, their activity, and I completely agree with this. Another observation with Sarah, I completed a master 3 years ago in UCC. In a sense, I was lucky, if I relate to it, because the professor Menzel from Germany introduced actually Building Smart as was part of one of the modules. And what was funny, if I can say, at the time is that the industry was not ready for it. If I was saying something that I say, what is about? So being innovative, sometimes it can go, it can be negative in a sense sometimes. So yeah, I think I was glad now to see your presentation, see that actually is something that actually got the next step is being publicized and how do you say promoted to the industry, and hopefully I will be able to have the opportunity to use as well in the industry. So well done, yeah.
Okay, guys, thank you. All that's left to do, if you would show your appreciation for the first panel, please, and then we'll swap.